Welcome back, everyone. Against the backdrop of incessant insecurity occasioned by the activities of terrorists and bandits in the northern parts of the country, especially in Plateau, Kaduna, Katsina, and Zamfara states, the Minister of State for Defense, Dr. Bello Matawale, has called for intensified operations against terrorists and bandits in the region. Consequently, while emphasizing the need for synergy amongst the services, the minister directed the Nigerian military to adopt a more proactive approach in decimating the activities of bandits and in dealing with insecurity in the region and the country at large. Now, to better understand security dynamics and diplomacy, let's speak with Group Captain Sadiq Garubashir, retired. He's a security consultant. He's also the CEO, Conflict Security and Development Consult Limited, who joins me from our Abuja studio. Captain, good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and welcome to Politics Tonight. It's good to see you again, sir.
Good evening, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. Thank you.
Right. So, the last time we had a conversation was in May. And so since that time and now, what's your assessment of the security situation in the country? Has there been any improvement?
Well, some improvements and some reversals. Certainly within the period, the last month that I also was on your studio, we've had some high-profile arrests. We've had some rescues of, kidnapped victims. All that is there for the positive side. But on the negative side also, we have had some horrendous attacks. We've had some reversals from the military and security agencies. So it's a mixed picture. And the bottom line will say we are not yet out of the woods. That is the summary of the situation.
All right. So let's talk about military diplomacy. And I would like you to help us with a wider perspective to the term military diplomacy. What does it mean? How is it practiced? What are its objectives? Who are the actors?
Well, yes, it is really a time to look at military diplomacy, especially with the recent visit by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa Gwabin, to Niger. And we saw the tumultuous welcome he received from the, whether we call them the Niger leaders or the Niger junta, because it is a military regime there. And at the background of that, we know since the clampdown by ECOWAS on Niger as a result of the military coup, there has been a kind of stalemate with no discussion going on, at least at the presidential level between ECOWAS and Niger, or even between Nigeria and Niger. So to see, a military delegation going and being received officially by the, by the members of the Niger ruling class, I think it is something to be happy about, and it gives us a glimpse of what can be achieved if we sometimes look at the aspect of military diplomacy. What is this military diplomacy? It's the use of military capabilities, assets, relationships to advance the cause of foreign policy or national security interests. And that's what we see doing. Because with due respect, we'll see the relationship between Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, to some extent Guinea and ECOWAS, and especially between Nigeria and Niger, has reached a stage where almost we can say talk at higher level, like maybe ministerial level or presidential level, are no longer possible. So to see, the number one military officer of the Nigerian Armed Forces going and having a breakthrough, as opposed to the cold shoulder that the Niger Republic has been giving all other delegations that went before, is something to celebrate and is something to study and file away for future reference whenever there is such a dilemma between Nigeria and any other country. We see an effective use of this diplomacy in that we have to understand that the security, because of our contiguity with Niger, we have security ties, we have economic ties, we have cultural and so many ties between us. Whatever affects Niger will ultimately reach Nigeria and vice versa. So to have the CDS going and extracting a commitment from the Niger leaders that they will continue to work with Nigeria to ensure that their security along the border areas is something that is very, very productive. Since after the impasse with ECOWAS, Niger did not say they are not going to cooperate with Nigeria, but certainly we were no longer confident of what they will do or what they cannot do regarding the multinational joint task force. But with this visit and the assurances given to the Chief of Defense Staff, I think it is a very welcome development, and it is something we should study and make recommendations for future application whenever the need arises.
All right, Group Captain, but generally, how important is the tool military diplomacy in the implementation of foreign policy and security of a country, and how does it benefit Nigeria?
Well, like I said, you see, in the impasse between ECOWAS and Niger, the traditional diplomacy, what I will call traditional diplomacy, either using the diplomats or Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, failed. We made attempt to send some delegations, which they were not sent away, but they were not really received warmly. So at that stage, we can say discussions have already broken. In fact, like 2-3 weeks ago, Niger was even making claims that Nigeria is housing some elements, some French elements that are hostile to Niger country. Our situation between us and Niger has never gotten this bad since independence. So here we are seeing where traditional diplomacy failed. We applied military diplomacy and it is working. Not only working to improve the bilateral relation between Nigeria and Niger, it is likely if ECOWAS leaders should also follow this template that has been set by this visit by the CDS, it is likely it will open doors for re-engagement with Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. Because the truth is that having ECOWAS as an entity, yes, it has advantages for all the members, and it will be a great disaster if the alliance is broken. So this is the use of military diplomacy. Sometimes when the traditional diplomacy fails, as we see here, when there is mistrust, military men have a way of engaging among themselves because of relationships that have been acquired either through operations, joint operations, peacekeeping, or attending courses. Among the Niger officers, you will find some officers who have done courses here in Nigeria, either at the Armed Forces Command and Staff College in Jaji or at the Defense College. You will also find Nigerian officers who have gone to French countries and done courses and interacted with these officers. Sometimes you will find, rather than president to president or minister to minister, sometimes personal relationship between these officers can open doors that have remained closed. And that is what we see playing out in this scenario.
All right. Group Captain, for the purpose of clarity, and this is because you've talked about the need to further study and further recommendations. If military diplomacy worked for countries like America and China, how do you advise government on making this a long-term strategy for shoring up Nigeria's security?
Yes, definitely. In fact, it's not that we don't have structures for military diplomacy, but as the saying goes, any system can be improved. Probably this is the first time we are seeing the actual use or the importance of this diplomacy. But apart from that, we've had engagement with other countries. As early as 1964, Nigeria did a bilateral operation in Tanganyika, which is now Tanzania. Nigeria also has sent training teams to set up some countries' militaries, like in Sierra Leone, the late General Suraj, and I remember Colonel Lowell Godebe. They were sent there to set up the military of that country. Relationships that are built because of this joint operation, or this peacekeeping, or these training missions, they last long. And whenever there's a problem where political leaders cannot talk, sometimes one military officer from another country contacting another officer with influence another country can open the doors and set the stage for the higher level political masters to discuss. That is the point I'm making. So as I am saying, any system can be improved. For both the military itself and the political leaders, seeing what happened with this opening of door by the CDS visit, it is time to really look at our military diplomacy as another tool that can be used for strategic and foreign policy initiatives. And for us also to really align our traditional diplomacy with economic diplomacy, with military diplomacy. Because all these tools, sometimes when one doesn't work, sometimes they work in combination. Sometimes one replaces the other because it is more appropriate. That is the point about saying about studying it and improving the systems, whether it is selection of our defense attaches, whether it is sending to our officers for foreign courses. There should be a system which, in my humble opinion now, the system needs to be improved upon.
All right, so Group Captain, this is my question. If you're to advise government at this moment, what would be your recommendations?
My recommendation is arriving from the success that we got from the CDS visit now. We should recognize military diplomacy and another aspect. So we look at all the elements of military diplomacy. Is it the officers we send for courses abroad? Is it the ones that come to our institutions here abroad? We should have, a record of all these officers. Is it the alumni association, like in this National Defense College here in Abuja? There is ANDEC, which is an association of former students that studied in Defense College. It has officers from all over the countries. Such a record is very useful when something is happening between Nigeria and another country. You could easily look through this relationship and see who has some leverage in Ghana, in Guinea, in Gambia, or wherever it is. Do we have officers that have done, courses or have relationship with officers that are holding power in such country? Like I said, sometimes that you find that personal relationships, cosmetic relationships, attendance of courses relationships, sometimes they open doors more than the formal ways, of starting engagement and the escalating tension. This visit has escalated the tension between Niger and Nigeria, certainly. How we are going to leverage on it and continue, that is the point. Because like I said, every system needs improvement. We should look at systems of, there are many countries that have since realized the importance of this, economic diplomacy. I have met a lot of officers, for example, from the Francophone countries here, who end up doing their junior staff college here in Jaji. They come for senior staff college, they come for NDC. They end up being defense attaches for their countries here in Nigeria. As they are doing this, whether you like it or not, they are developing relationships with officers at different levels. They are developing relationships with government workers. When eventually their countries have issues with Nigeria, they are in very good position to advise their country that I know Mr. A, I know Mrs. B, I know Mr. C, I know General this, or I know Police Commissioner this, and I can talk to him. Sometimes it is that police commissioner that will bring the attention of the Nigerian government to listen to what that country is saying. That is the point I'm trying to make.
All right, Group Captain, thank you so much. Now, a video circulated over the weekend where bandits led by notorious kingpin Bello Turji gained access to a military armored personnel carrier in Zamfara State, and local security officials said, contrary to initial reports, the APC was not forcefully seized. Instead, the vehicle became immobilized in a swampy area during a mission, prompting the troops to retreat. What does military training teach a commander to do in such situation? And was that followed here?
Well, yes, the video came out, and to the layman, it will look as if the bandits have routed our troops and taken, the vehicle with them. But as we are made to understand, that's not what happened. Generally, any commander that is well-trained, and Nigerian officers are well-trained, when you have a piece of equipment that is important to your operation and it becomes immobilized in enemy territory, every officer who has attended staff courses knows what he is supposed to do. What he's supposed to do, you first assess the situation. You assess the situation to see what is the extent of the problem. Is it that the vehicle has become immobilized because of technical problem? Is it as a result of enemy action? Is it as a result of terrain? As soon as we realize that, you also radio back to the nearest unit or your higher headquarters, intimating them of your situation. Then you try to see, this vehicle, can it be recovered? Can it be repaired on the ground? If that cannot be done, what you do now is to use your troops to surround the area and adopt a defensive position, because you know that you are in bandit area. They could attack you. While you are doing that and also trying to see whether you can salvage the situation by either, recovering the vehicle, using another vehicle either to tow it or winching or whatever means, if that is possible. Obviously, in this situation, the commander thought that it's not possible to take the vehicle out of it. So what does he do? The next thing is that you have to think of the protection of your own personnel. In the protection of your personnel, you have to use an extractive method to make sure that your personnel are not harmed, especially where you have made an assessment and found the number. That MRAP, maximum there should be numbers of 12 troops inside. With the number of bandits we saw, we can go back and say the commander made a quick assessment, because definitely there was no way 12 soldiers would be able to counter the number of bandits we saw surrounding that district. So that is to say, it is a situation where unless he extracts his troops, the troops are in real mortal danger. And you have to understand, for the commander, his most important asset actually are the people. Even though the equipment is important, but his soldiers are the most important. So what the commander did, by leaving the vehicle, in the absence that he cannot recover it, he cannot repair it, and he cannot stay to defend it, based on the number of enemy that is around the area, we can say that he made a very good decision, and that is what military training says. In other instances, he may decide, for example, to destroy even the vehicle so that it doesn't get into this. But this is a decision that the commander on the ground will decide. Is it necessary? I want to believe again here, I am second-guessing the commander. He believed that there could be a chance that the Nigerian military can still recover that vehicle. So the issue of destroying it is not there. But taking his men away and saving them, I think this is what every commander will do given the circumstances on the ground.
All right.